And we're back here in the studio, Yoga with Barbara, our friend Babsy Glanzig.
What a star.
Wife of our friend Stash Wasaki.
Small town here in Telluride.
And for those that don't know this man here, I'm with David Holbrooke, my friend and former colleague.
Yeah, Peter, side by side, man.
Welcome back to Almost Live, man.
Nice to be back with you.
Really good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk a lot about your new festival,
Thank you.
Original Thinkers. And first of all, congratulations. You made it through year one.
We did.
Must have been a big deal for you.
I look back a year from now, how the hell did we pull that off? I mean, I really do. I'm like, wait a second. We didn't have this. We didn't know that. This was uncertain. Yet we did somehow. And it worked, and it worked better than a lot of ways I expected. And so now I sit there with the adage, always, don't be cocky.
Right.
Don't be cocky. Don't think you've got this. But also thinking, how can we make it better? How can we make it stronger? And we're also trying to build a business. Right. This isn't a nonprofit.
Right.
This isn't.
Right.
So I have to figure out, our team has to figure out how this works ultimately. And,
well,
and that's the big challenge.
Let me just stop you for a moment, because some people watching may not know what Original Thinkers is about. So just give us a little bit of the platform there for people to understand what this festival is about.
So it's an ideas festival. It takes place here in Mountain Village, October 3rd to 6th, first weekend in October. And what we're doing is we have 10 different shows over those 4 days. 1 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. And each of these shows look at an individual idea. And we look at it through a bunch of different perspectives. Speakers like TED Talk speakers. But we also use film. I'm a filmmaker, so I believe in the power of that. Performance, art. Last year we had ping pong on stage. We're looking and trying to say, okay, here's an important idea to understand. And can we flesh it out through these different mediums? And then the other thing I think that's really important that we do is we say, go take a break. 3 shows on Friday, 3 shows on Saturday. You've got lots of time. Plenty of time
to digest and
chew on it and connect with people.
And talk.
That's right, because I think these big ideas really do matter in this crazy time we're living in. And so if we just take them in, swallow them, rush off to the next thing, or worry if we're going to get into something else, that just doesn't work in the same way. And we want people to be able to connect. And I think it's super important in these days. I say this a lot, that I think it just coming together, convening, is a sacred act in and of itself. And if we can give people the text and the context for something more, there's a ton of possibility.
Agreed. So I was on the website sort of looking through at least who you've announced preliminarily, and there's some very cool stuff. So a lot of music.
Yeah.
A lot of really cool, interesting music.
That was a real thing last year, more music. Yeah. And one of the things we did last year, Saturday night, we had a beautiful film that I had been involved in called We Are Not Done Yet, about these veterans who are processing their PTSD through spoken word performance. And beautiful film, beautiful show, but a hard one. One of our guests walked off on stage because he just couldn't do it. Couldn't handle it. And then other suicide, depression, PTSD. Welcome to Saturday night.
Saturday night, fans. There you are.
So this year we said, okay, let's shift it a little, and let's bring in music, and let's lighten it when we can. We're looking at serious stuff for sure, but we wanted to have that perspective. So yeah, we're doing a show called What Does Music Really Do to Us? In that show, we have a bunch of really interesting people, including musicians, scientists who are looking at music. But that's the idea, is that we can look at these individual concepts and dig into them in a different way.
Yeah, and then I also saw that you have the journalists. Are they a couple? The journalists that flew the single prop plane.
Amazing.
All around the country, and then there was a film that was at Sundance, and it sounded great.
Yeah, so that's part of a show we're doing called Character of Our Country. James and Deborah Fallows, big best-selling authors, major public intellectuals. He's worked for The Atlantic, and they flew around 100,000 miles in their single-engine Cessna, going to small towns. Speaks to us here in Telluride. And what they came away with, of all the craziness in this country, and there's a lot these days, they wanted to talk about the character of our country and dive into it from that perspective. And so then we'll add in films that we're working with. And I don't want to talk about it. Well, I talk about it because I'm like that. But we have a film that I'm really excited about that needs to get done, and that's part of the reason I'm mentioning it, by none other than Keith Hill, who's working on a film about Jim Looney, a retired postman. So we filmed him over there.
Keith Hill, who is a not so long ago graduate of the high school here.
Not so long
he's a kid in his 20s.
In his 20s, that's right. And so, that's really interesting to talk about our character of our country and look it through the lens of Jim Looney.
Love it.
So that's what we're trying to do, is put together these shows, and that's really fun. And what we realized last year was like, oh, guest film. Now we're like shows, ideas, individual, and then build around that. Yeah, but that's what we realized had more power and more relevance to what we were doing.
Yeah.
We have a show this year I'm really excited about called Change is Hard. And it is, we know how to affect real change takes time, and you see it in so many levels. So we have a guy named Aaron Belkin who runs the Michael Palm Center, interestingly, that really worked on the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Strategically, so sort of a political strategist in a bunch of ways. Then we have a woman named Bonnie Siegler who wrote a book called Signs of Resistance that tracks protest art through the history of this country. Then we have a guy named Rami Hassan, a musician, an Egyptian, whose songs were basically the anthem of the Egyptian Revolution. So we have that, and then we have this incredible film called St. Louis Superman that follows a guy named Bruce Franks, who's an African-American in Missouri, who ran for, I think, state legislature on a basically gun victims bill. And he's a battle rapper, you know, who like you like the Eminem movie 9 Mile. He's got face tats. He's the least likely politician, but he's amazing. And we put that all together with a couple of other elements.
Wow, what a show.
What a show.
Dude.
What a show. And that's within, you know, that's all within 90 minutes to 2 hours. Go out in our woods. Go get something to eat at Telluride. Go have, you know, go chill out. Go for a mountain bike ride.
I like the format. It's
Me
cool.
too. I think it suits.
So let me interrupt if you don't mind, because we're going to have to wind our way out of this interview. Much as I could stay here for a long time talking to you, but I do want to, before we go, you know, I've been thinking about talking to you today, and you know, I've known you for a long time, and before I knew you, you were actively involved as a journalist, as a filmmaker, as an impresario, a festival organizer, all these different ways of trying to be at the forefront of helping people make change, trying to bring together leaders in the whole world of social change, social justice. And here we are, it's 2019, the world seems, especially in our country, more polarized than ever. So from your perspective, and it's a high one, not just because you're 6'5", but because you're in those circles, 6'6".
6'6".
Okay. How's it looking right now? Are you feeling optimistic?
Yeah, look, this is an insane time. Of course it is. We have a president who's tweeting insane things. We have all this stuff going on. We have climate change. I just came from a climate conference in New York of storytellers, and that's the space I want to be in. And what I think we're trying to do with Original Thinkers is look at ideas through the lens of story. We talk about that intersection. And what we're also saying is that the stories that give us hope, the stories that can bring us together, are everyday stories. You don't need to have 3 PhDs or run a hedge fund or be something that's fancy and possible. And I refer again to our retired postman, Jim Looney. There's wisdom in Jim, and that wisdom's universal. That wisdom's not red or blue. That wisdom is, and you know, we saw his graduation speech. It was love. It was love, and that's, you know, and I don't want to be simplistic. We have big, huge problems. But I think if we can come together, and again, convening to me is a sacred act, then we can do something that start breaking down some of those barriers and look at it and say, okay, the old stuff doesn't work. We do need original thinking here, and we need to look at through the stories and lives of each other, I think. Great
nice words, my friend.
Hey, just try, man.
So happy to have you here.
Hey, right on, Peter. Pleasure.
Keep on with the good work. You're doing great. I'm really thrilled that you've moved into this whole event, and it's growing, and it's prospering, and it's. Wish you a lot of success. And right now, we're going to join another friend, Elena from Ghost Town. We do a little series called. We abbreviate it TGIM. It stands for Thank Ghost It's Monday.
Nice.
So we go over there and we talk to people that are having coffee or something to eat over at her place, and we give them quotes to choose from, pretty good quotes, deep, heavy quotes, and then they speak to what it means to them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, our office is right behind Ghost Town. People are there. Come say hi.
I always try to get Gabe on. He never wants to do it, but check it out.